logging in because, well, this is what I do. I'm a Hearthstone player. I log in to play Hearthstone. You just kind of click the play or the launch Hearthstone icon in the BNet launcher when you're not even sure what you're supposed to be doing. You're like, all right, I'll just log in.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I am Dawn, also known as Dragon Rider. And in this video, I have a very special guest with me, the wonderful one and only Mr. RidiculousHat. Please go ahead and tell us about yourself. What do you do? And what do you, I guess, not only do, but what do you feel about everything that you do as it relates to Hearthstone?
Now that's a big question. Well,
Yeah.
thanks so much for having me here. Gosh, what do? I tweet a lot and I talk a lot, which is like tweeting but more words. I'm on a lot of podcasts, Coin Concede, Vicious Syndicate, The Angry Chicken, and generally just you know play a lot of Hearthstone. I'm at the maximum for Discord servers. So I think I'm at the 100 server cap, kind of excessive. Um, and in general, my approach to Hearthstone is kind of my approach to most things in life is generally if I enjoy something, I keep doing it, and if I don't, I stop doing it. And if I keep doing something, then I must appreciate both it and also the people that make it. And it's kind of how I look at the world. And so it's all about building positive engagement with other people that are also having fun with the game and helping newer players understand stuff, helping more experienced players, well, just connecting with them. And, on occasion, connecting with the developer too and saying, hey, thanks for the good work or reporting a bug or whatever, sharing feedback. You know how it is.
Yes, and I know, I see you all over the place, and I think both of us talk a lot about mindset and just various aspects, kind of like you mentioned with, as it relates to even how we think about our connections with other people or how we try to think about, you know, taking relative things like, hey, there's other people on the other side of the screen or there's people behind the games that we play. I feel like that's a topic that we both cover, and it's kind of what we are here in this video to talk about is some kind of general mindset. And I think we can kind of take a focus on how it relates to Hearthstone specifically, and also just, I guess, a like improvement and growth mindset, as I feel like it's very, very important. And I don't think like people don't really talk or think enough about the mindset aspect of improving how they how they play a certain game or how they compete when they are trying to get better.
Yeah, well, when you look at card games in general, it's a genre where it's difficult to connect your actions with the outcome of the game, especially if you're newer to the genre or play, even at a casual competitive level, we'll call it, even people that regularly push for, your diamond ranks or whatever. Um, we're talking about a really major disconnect between the actions that win you the game and the results of the game. Or also what lost the game. People are often drawn to this flashy card that happened at the end of the game is why I lost, when there may have been decisions many, many turns earlier, as early as the mulligan or in deck selection, that could have changed the outcome there. And Blizzard knows addiction mechanics extremely well, and the feeling after a game of seeing a gold star get taken away, especially if it comes with your rank setting on fire and burning away to a lower rank, that's queue up another one. Salty runbacks, they'll get you every time.
I feel like that's a great name for a band or even just like a T-shirt or something. Salty run bags.
The salty runbacks, yeah.
Because
It's,
I mean, we've all been there, right? It's
Yeah. Oh,
ugh.
yes. The thing about this topic is that I have a lot of experience with it because I've been deep in this. We all have many, many times, and Hearthstone is a game that's great at being playable for 5 minutes or 5 hours, and there are plenty of times where I've played when I shouldn't, maybe try and sneak in a game at work, don't tell anybody. But then if I lose that game, it's like, "Alright, well, just one more. Alright, well, just one more. Oh, I have to do stuff." Um, and if those games are all losses, it's very easy to be in a bad mood for the rest of the day, and that's not really kind of a place you wanna be where the game that you choose to play for fun is negatively impacting your mood. No, we're all victim to our experiences guiding our feelings, but it's still something that we should generally enjoy doing and also recognize when other things are getting in the way.
Oh, absolutely. And wow, it's crazy that you bring that up because I feel like a lot of people have either been there, are there, or maybe they're moving in that direction without even realizing it. And I get this a lot on my stream where people are like, "Oh, you don't really tilt," or my salty is like, "Oh, dang, I can't believe they got that top deck," and then I forget about it after a second. And I did not used to be like that. There was a point when I was playing where, yeah, I would have those losses and I would be pissed off for the rest of the day. I would be, you know, cussing at everything or taking my frustration out on other things or sometimes other people. And that was a very, very unhealthy mindset to be in. And I didn't even realize it until basically my husband was like, "Hey, this is a problem." And, you know, you probably should make the choice of either changing your attitude or not playing. And when he said that, I was like, wow, okay, I have to take a step back and actually look at this seriously because I did not even realize how much of a problem it had become.
Yeah, it's Regis Kilbin had a quote a while ago that I think about all the time, that we are not victims of games we choose to play. And I think that's a good way to think about it of the game didn't do anything to you, and no one said you have to play this right now or that you have to be mad at your opponent. And I think Hearthstone, as well as many lifestyle games, it's just kind of very habit forming of logging in because, well, this is what I do. I'm a Hearthstone player. I log in to play Hearthstone. You just kind of click the play or the launch Hearthstone icon in the BNet launcher when you're not even sure what you're supposed to be doing. You're like, all right, I'll just log in. And
Mhm.
once you're in there, all right, I'll just play a game. And it's the sort of thing that we do every day, but it doesn't have to be that way. I have had some ups and downs in my relationship with the game. Any game that you play for, I'm gonna zoom out. Not even any game. Anything that's in your life for 5 years or more, that's a relationship. And that's gonna need to be monitored and attended to and worked on, just like any other relationship with a person or with a job or whatever. And there were times where I didn't put the time in and didn't reflect on it, and it was a negative experience for me. And I had to break that habit and just play less and realize if I didn't log into Hearthstone, the world kept spinning. And I knew enough about the game to talk about it if I wanted to talk about it, but I also didn't have to talk about it and think about it all the time. And it was something that I went to doing and engaging with when I wanted to, as opposed to the habit, like reading the paper. It's just something I do every day. It doesn't have to be something I do every day. And there are times at the end of an expansion cycle, if I'm not feeling it, don't tell anyone. I won't always clear my quests.
Oh, no.
It's okay. It's what, a couple packs? The currency of a reward for a game that you don't wanna play anymore is not all that valuable. So if you're chilling and then you don't get an extra pack for a game that you're not feeling right now, it's okay. Life is too short to grind out a daily for 100 gold in a fictional currency when I could just go do something else. And I took some time off at the end of Barrens, and now I'm back, and the beginning of Stormwind has been really, really fantastic gameplay-wise. Past couple weeks have been a little rough Blizzard-wise, a little rough, but the gameplay is good.
Yeah, it's sometimes also hard to think about when you're learning Hearthstone or you're trying to improve, you think about things like how do I maximize my quests, like you mentioned, or even in a game. Okay, I need to manage my resources. How many cards am I getting? How much mana do I have? But people don't think about their mindset and their mental health as a resource as well because taking a step back like you did, that was a resource. Hey, you missed out on some quests, but you were able to, it sounds like, kind of clear your mind a little bit, step back from it, and then when you were ready, you came back and seems like it helped and that you're kind of in a better place now going into it.
Yeah, and that's the cycle that I find myself in most expansions. Now, for reference, my first big break with the game was during the Kobolds and Catacombs meta, so it's been a while now. That's what, 2017. Gosh, been playing this for a long time. But I realized there are going to be points of some metas where I want to play more, and some where I want to play less, and some environments where I'm more engaged, and some where I'm less engaged, and all of that is fine. It doesn't mean that the game is poorly made. It doesn't mean that just if I can't win with something, it doesn't mean it's an issue with the meta not being skilled enough because I don't have the base assumption that I am the most skilled player and deserve those wins. It's just a question of figuring out how to enjoy what we have, and also if it's not enjoyable, figuring out how to take that step back. So, yeah, it's something that I recommend for a lot of people is to take breaks when they're not feeling it. And once you start hearing people talk about things like RNG a lot, or if they talk about they have the conspiracy matchmaking theories, especially, when that starts to come up, it's like, all right, your relationship with the game is clouding your judgment a little bit and maybe not in the best spot. And I think a little bit of distance could help because then you can come back and enjoy the game for what it is, not what you wish it was.
That's absolutely a great line. And the reason that I actually initially reached out to you about even doing this or what I wanted to do with a video like this on YouTube was from one of your Twitter comments in reply to somebody else, and you were talking about stars and kind of the relationship of stars versus MMR. And can you just talk a little bit about that and kind of explain? Because I do feel like I get a lot of questions about that. Well, what rank do you need to get 11x? Or how do you keep playing? I get ladder anxiety, or oh, you lost a bunch of ranks. It's like, okay, well, yeah, some days I'm just gonna lose more. That's how it goes. But there is times where if I'm not focused on just, hey, I need to think about my play and not the rank, not the stars, not the number on my legend symbol. Those are the days when I feel like I do better. But what's the correlation there between like stars and MMR?
So this is it's a big topic, and MMR is a black box. We don't know much about it. We have learned some things externally from correlation of like this happened, so this happened, and getting a rough idea of how it works. The basic way that I explain it is that your multiplier at the beginning of the month is your real rank, is how the system thinks you're doing in general. Because the way the multiplier system works, it's based on your hidden MMR matchmaking rating, where the entire goal of the system is to make sure you have good games by playing against people that are about as good as you, or at least are winning about the same rate against the same quality as opponents as you. So the old system had this issue, I called it speed bumping, where the previous 2 systems, you would reset ranks, either 4 ranks or you'd go all the way back in the old days. You go back to, like, rank 16, rank 17, and go past. And this happened as well if you were playing a new format, like if you were normally a standard player and you played wild or vice versa. The you would be playing something fun, and then you would go against someone with a legend card back and an all golden control warrior deck or whatever, and they would destroy you in 4.5 minutes. And it didn't feel like a real compelling experience for either player. And the new system is really trying to avoid that by matching against people that match your engagement and your win rate, and even in case your collection. It doesn't look at those specific things, but those are things that can lead towards a person's relative win rate at that time. If you only got one deck and maybe you're making some budget substitutions, you might win a little bit less. Or if you're not playing as much, you might win a little bit less. So it wants to match you against opponents that make sense for you to face. So a lower MMR doesn't mean you're bad and you should feel bad. And a lower multiplier doesn't mean you should feel bad. It means the system is trying to find you opponents that match up with you. And then after your multiplier runs out, you're paired against people at the same rank as you when you have no bonus stars. You're paired against people that are in the same rank bracket as you. You can work your way up. All right. If your multiplier runs out at platinum 5, and then you're beating people at platinum 5, platinum 4, platinum 3, hey, you're working your way up, and you can improve your rank and your multiplier for the next month by grinding those games out. Now, it can take a little bit, but the road to progress takes a couple months sometimes. Like it can take a little longer. But if you say this is really grindy, yeah, you're not meant to grind it all out and immediately become a better player in 1 month. Take some time, work on it, be intentional with your games. Generally, your multiplier is a reflection of how the system thinks where the system thinks your skill level is at, and your rank is a reflection of time played. Your rank is really all about the amount of energy you invest into the game in terms of engagement, because it just takes time to grind. And the most important thing about your rank, your stars are not a possession. You don't own them, you are renting them. Some days Hearthstone will give you more, some days Hearthstone will take some away, some days you will play in a better headspace, or you'll get better draws, or you have better matchups and you'll win more. Some days you'll be in a worse headspace, or you'll get worse matchups, the meta will shift against you or whatever. All these variant factors, and they'll go away. Over time, if you are well matched they will stay about 50%. If you are improving, then you will be above 50%. And if you are having a rough time, then the system will correct your multiplier for the next month, but you have rank floors to keep you from falling.
That that's a very good description. Thank you. Yeah, it's some people don't think about it that way a lot of times either. And even I have to remind myself like, okay, it's you know, don't think about the stars or, there's even in the past there's been times where I've fluctuated a lot and then I start to get really frustrated, right? Oh, I hit diamond 5 and then all of a sudden I cruise up to diamond 2 and then I fall back to diamond 5. That'll come to diamond 4 and then hover there for like a couple days or a week or 2 weeks and then finally, I can maybe push to legend, and it starts to get frustrating because then all of a sudden you start thinking, oh, maybe I just suck all of a sudden, or oh, well, something happened and now I'm not good at the game. Where last month I didn't have this problem, and it's variance is a thing both in the game with matchmaking, and you can't play. I'm going to kind of take a quote from Jared Tendler. I know both of us have done a lot of talk about mental game of poker. He talks like you can't always play at your A game. You can't always play on your A game, right? You can't always play your very best games of Hearthstone. Sometimes you're not going to be in a good headspace for that, or sometimes maybe you're making good decisions, but hey, that RNG just is not working for you. But where the mistake is or where it starts to hinder you is when you start completely blaming RNG all the time, like you said, or you don't think about, hey, I still need to be making the best decisions that I can for whatever state I'm in at that time I'm playing.
Yeah, and also a common mistake is that people don't blame RNG enough. Surprisingly, if you're in a rough headspace especially, and then you lose a few games, "Oh, I'm so bad at this game. Oh, I can't win with anything. Even the best players are winning with this deck, and I'm crap at it." Like, that's a very common trap to fall into. It's important to recognize as well the best players in this game, they usually sport about a 60% win rate, which means they lose 2 out of 5 games. That's the very, very best players in the game, and of course, it's going to depend on who they're playing against. There's a lot of factors, whatever. But the general way to look at it, the balance that I try and maintain if I'm ever thinking about blaming variance in RNG, in a small sample size that'll happen, and most players have a small sample size of games. There are millions and millions of games played in Hearthstone, and so even 100 games that a person can play over the course of a week or two, that's still a drop in the bucket. You're not really going to get a representative sample size there. But if you were blaming variance, but also the same players consistently get top 100 legend. If you are not top 100 legend, they are doing something that you aren't. The goal is to figure out exactly what they're doing because it's the same people at the top all the time. They can't just be getting lucky for years on end. That's not how that works. They have to clearly be doing something. But also, you have to remember that they also lose games to variance. We've seen it on camera multiple times. So you can't blame variance too much, and you have to take responsibility for your games. But you can't ignore the possibility that even if you played better, you still would have lost and that sometimes variance is gonna get you. You have to live in that middle ground of, "I could have done better, and it may or may not have mattered." But each game is a lesson teaching us, "Hey, I had opportunity to play this better." Not, "Hey, I had opportunity to win." You don't get to choose when you win, you get to choose when you play. But if you play optimally, you're more likely to get those wins.
Yeah, that's yeah, I talk about this a lot, and you're still just like blowing my mind. I love the way that you describe things. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's
I think about this topic a lot and talk about it a lot, and it's by far the most common thing that I share in coachings, especially with people who haven't been legend before. Because if you haven't been legend before, your final boss is yourself. Because the
oh,
first time that you cross that diamond 5 barrier, your heart starts beating every game. It all feels so much more intense and so much more important. And oh my gosh, how could they have top decked that? I was so close to being legend. I need this. If you ever play the game because you need a rank, it's gonna be a bad time. There's no way that you can play when you need something from Hearthstone, because if you need something from Hearthstone, that means there's an unmet need in your personal life, in your real life, and it will absolutely translate over into the game. You have to play because you want to play for fun, and a rank can be a goal, but you can't need it. It can't be a part of who you are to the point where it'll impact your mood if you don't get it, because that's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that I think a lot of us have been saying for a long time, but it's important still all the time. But your rank is not who you are. Like your rank is not your identity. And I was in that trap for a long time where it's like, oh, well, I'm a diamond 5 player. Well, no, that's not really how it works. Like that's not a thing. But I hear that a lot from people, or they just say, "Oh well, I'm just a platinum player, or I was just playing in gold." So okay, that it is really irrelevant. But people put a lot of stock into it just because of the general mindset that people have. But if you really want to improve or think about the game in a healthier way, forget that. Don't think about who you are in relation to your rank.
Yeah, just a question of what you have to learn. I think there's some relevance in understanding the skills that I would teach someone that consistently hits an X6 multiplier versus an X10 are gonna be a little bit different, right? You can't teach calculus before you teach algebra sort of thing.
Mhm.
And there's going to be patterns there that correlate with person's engagement, understanding of some core concepts. But it's still evaluation of your skill and worth based on your rank is a bad idea, of course. And also there's a lot of judgment that people levy upon others or themselves. Oh, I'm losing playing in bronze, lol. Like you want to make the joke, fine, but keep in mind having that mindset and that perspective on things, it just devaluation. And there's no real need to do that. It doesn't add anything to the world, it only takes away. And think about all the other players that are maybe pushing out of whatever rank that you are devaluing, and think about how included it makes them feel. We all started somewhere.
Yes. I try to tell people that all the time. It's like, "Hey, you gotta start somewhere." And everyone is going to be at different points in their journey of how long they've played, how much time they have to actually devote to trying to improve or grinding games. You know, uh, with the star system and the MMR system that you were talking about. I mean, that's proven in things like people who might not play for a month or they barely play, so that they'll play 30 games for the month, but hey, they have the 11-star bonus. And it's like in relative, it looks like they only hit bronze or silver, but they end up with a very high MMR because of their skill and what they've worked towards previously to get to that MMR. So that's what's like looking at oh hey, they're bronze. Well, that kind of doesn't really mean a lot sometimes. So yeah, putting too much stock in that can definitely be a bad thing. And valuing, like you said, valuing it not only for yourself, but for other people, not really a good idea.
And 11x as well is a very particular point. The Hearthstone content a lot of times is disproportionately consumed by highly engaged players. And the binary divide in Hearthstone for as long as I can remember is legend versus not legend. And Ixar put out that rank distribution graphic in the old system. I think it was during the Rastakhan's Rumble meta, where legend was 0.6% of players, and 2/3 of players never broke old rank 15. And that should be kind of eye opening as to if you can't hit legend, it doesn't mean you're bad. It means you're not in the top 0.6% of players. Even in the newer system, if legend is a little bit more common to hit because the new system reduces ladder anxiety by a lot,
Mhm,
I still would doubt it's more than 1% of players. And the 10x versus 11x divide, it's the sort of goal that after you hit legend, you can push towards that. But the behavior that I see that fascinates me is that people will get like right outside top 1000 legend and then stop playing Hearthstone because they're worried about losing a rank, so they play less Hearthstone to keep it. I don't really follow it. I don't really understand. The reason 11x exists is because players in that MMR ballpark, it is a true skill mismatch for them against the people that grind it out to legend on the 30th day of every month versus the people that hit it on day one. It would not be a fair match. And at 10x multiplier from Diamond 5 and up, you are playing against other Diamond 5 and up players with no multiplier.
mhm,
And the high legend players, it just wouldn't be a fair fight. It wouldn't be the right match. So the system says we're giving you an extra star so you never fight against those players because it would be a speed bump. So the way to consistently get 11x is not get right outside the rank bucket early in the month, log out and hope. The way is to improve to the point where you are consistently within top 1000 legend and 11x aligns with the quality of opponent that you're facing because you are also that quality of opponent. That's the way to do it. But instead, the ladder anxiety takes over. If I play more, I might lose this thing that I don't actually own anyway. And it it results in people playing less and their skills get a little rusty in those couple weeks where they don't log in and play as much, and then they get back and it's a fight for it anyways, and they're still playing against those high MMR players, and the experience is just really difficult. But if you play more against that quality of opponent, you learn what you have to do to beat them, and then you can hang out in that rank bracket routinely.
Yeah. That's I hear that a lot as well. People say that, and I kind of understand it once you get to, like, the top 16 thing, because if you don't
Sure.
don't decay, then you're gonna qualify at that point, but that's a bit different. Especially, it's kind of hard too because there, like you said, it's just a black box. We don't really know exactly where, like, you can't even say top 1000 or top 15 because it varies. So it's so hard to
Yeah.
actually say this is the cutoff for 11x because that might not even be where it is.
It changes every month. It is roughly top 10 to 15% of, Legend population on each server, but that'll change based on how many people get Legend and play each month. Usually, the first month of an expansion like, 50% more Legends than the 4th month. So, if you were on the America server, I think if you were in the around rank 2000 in for Baron's launch in April, you probably got 11x. But this past, month, the last month of Barons, if you were around 1,300 or 1,400, you probably missed. So, it's pretty difficult to tell exactly when. The general rule that I share with people is top 1,000 in standard, top 200 in wild, because that's the safest. I have not seen anybody miss in those ballparks, and it's a tighter window to hit, but if you wanna be safe and know that 11x is the right fit for you, that's where you'll be anyway. So, playing for 11x is not usually what I recommend doing, just like playing for any rank is not what I recommend doing. I recommend playing to improve your skills and have a good time, because if you improve your skills organically, the rank is there as a symptom of your learning process.
And I've done at least a kind of basic video of how to up your game and some general kind of concepts that I think a lot of people should use in order to improve. And I'll link that in the comments below. But if you had to give kind of some advice on just overall, what is it that, let's say, even you think has helped you the most improve over time? What would you say that is?
Oh boy. The answer that I should give is play slower, but that's not what I do. That's what I should do. Um, but also, so playing slower, if you have a plan, suggest a second plan to yourself before you play your cards, and then try and convince yourself that the first plan was better. And by verbalizing and talking through what your goal is, you'll land in the right place. Um, but sharing replays is a great one, so other people can see what's going on with your games, and then watching people who are better than you play the same deck as you is probably the best advice. Because again, the people that are consistently top 100 legend, that are consistently doing well, the grandmasters of the world, sometimes you'll watch these Masters Tour broadcasts, and it's like they're playing a different game or living on a different planet or whatever. They come up with game plans that I would never have envisioned. And trying to figure out how did they get there? What are they trying to do? What is the point of each play? Even if you wanna really get intense with it, there was an experiment many, many years ago on Reddit that I thought was great, where you go to a VOD of a person playing a game, and then before they make a play, at the start of every turn, you pause the video and write down what you would do, and then write down what they did, and keep track of the differences. And you'll realize at the high level, the gameplay diverges so much from what I thought was the right thing to what actually ends up working for them, and it doesn't mean they win every game, but the way that they look at the game is the important thing to try to absorb.
Yeah, that's a huge thing, I think, in terms of looking at the differences and just looking at the reasoning. I feel like for me that's been a huge thing for me improving over time. And something that I really try to do when I cast as well is offer the, especially if it's a line that I didn't think of, or I'm like, that's a little interesting. Then I start verbalizing with, between the other caster, or if I'm just thinking about it myself, okay, well, why did they make that play? Is there something maybe they're thinking about that their opponent could have? Are they setting up for a lethal? Are they setting up a different play so they wanted to play this card now to make the next thing work better? Or what is the reasoning why? Because I feel like you can watch a VODs and okay, you can see that they do that thing, and then you go try to do that thing, and you're like, oh, it's turn six. They played this card on turn six, and you do that, and you're like, well, that didn't go very well, and now I just lost, and my opponent just what happened? Well, because the reasoning why they did that might have actually been because that's what they had to do in that match based on maybe what they had in their hand. Whereas in the game you just played, your hand, maybe it actually would have been better to do some other play. So, like, for me, the reasoning why of why you're doing things, why did they just play that card for tempo even though they missed out on the battle cry? Or why are they holding the weapon for one more turn? Why didn't they swing face with that? Or why didn't they play that weapon instead? Those are the things that when you really start to think about that and analyzing it from kind of that perspective, you start to take emotion out of it, which I think is also another thing that's helped a lot. And we kind of, talked about that when you get too invested sometimes it can start to really spiral. So if you look at things like that and the reasonings, then I feel like it's an easy way to take the emotion out of it and just analyze it straight up like that.
Yeah, it's it depends why you're playing the game, right? It's sometimes you play to have fun. And, like, there have been a few times where people will share a deck list and ask for ideas, and I suggest some things, they're like, "Oh, I threw that in to be a fun card." Like, "Cool." But then, if the idea of doing what I want, playing the game on my terms versus playing the game on Hearthstone's terms, those are 2 different things, and you don't really get to do both. You get to either do what you want and accept the win rate, or do what Hearthstone wants and then accept the compromise if it's not how you exactly wanna play. There are gonna be some metas where you get to do what you want and it wins, and that's cool. There are gonna be other metas where you get to do what you want and it really doesn't win, and that's you have to decide, do you wanna change what you do? Do you wanna engage less, or do you wanna stay mad, I guess? I don't know. Like, all the people that are talking about not being able to play control right now, it's currently day 2 of the Stormwind meta, and there's a lot of combo-y decks going on, and I don't know how long they'll last, but right now, if you wanna play hard control, like at the beginning of any expansion, it's not really gonna work. So you have to make peace with that and decide, do I do something else or do I cut back or what? Because trying to force something that doesn't seem to be working is a recipe for being upset. But you look at the last meta we were just in Barons. If you liked control, that was a great meta for like a month there. And if you didn't like playing against control, well, we heard about it on Twitter. And I think that there's going to be a time where everyone gets a turn, but it's not always your turn, and that means you get to choose. Do I play on my terms and make peace with the win rate, or do I play on Hearthstone's terms and make peace with the choice?
Yeah, that's that's a really good way of looking at it, and I hope that that helps some of you. And as we start to wrap this up, is there anything else that you want to make sure that you mention while we're talking about this?
Well, I just wanted to thank you so much for having me on and talk about the subject that is near and dear to my heart. And it's important to remember, not only will changing your mindset help you feel better about how you play, it helps you win more. When we talked to No Hands Gamer over on CoinConceit, which is one of my podcasts, he talked about how he realized other players had worse emotional control than him, and that if he was better at maintaining that even keel, he would have a competitive advantage against them. And that's something that he's kind of held on to as a player, and it's worked really well for him. He's a grandmaster now. So that kind of approach to the game, it's not just about feeling better. It's not just about having a more healthy relationship with the game. It also helps you do better when you're not so focused on the negative aspect of things.
Yep, I can attest to that as well. I have, I kind of shared my story. And when I have changed my mindset and looked at things differently, I've noticed a huge increase. It might have been a little slower depending on, because working on mindset is not it's not like a okay, I'm going to work on mindset or I'm going to go to sleep and then tomorrow it's going to be great. It is a
Oh, yeah.
constant thing. It is daily.
Tomorrow, I'm just gonna be happier.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how life works.
No. No, no. It's a constant thing. So, yeah, just like improving over time, it's gonna take time, it's gonna take effort, but if it's something that you wanna do, then it's definitely worth it. So, yes, thank you for joining. I'm gonna plug everything that you do down below in the comments as well if you wanna find anywhere that Hat is involved with or anything else that he does. But is there anything else you wanna plug specifically?
Yeah. Go and smash that like and subscribe buttons below, especially the bell to find future Dragon Rider videos. That's it. That's all I got.
Right. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much again. Thank you everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. And if you want to check out any more videos or any more advice, tips, tricks, strategy, mindset, any of that, then make sure that you click on that playlist right there.